Port Orchard, Washington. Across from Bremerton, it is the county seat. It has some old buildings and an old downtown and some various antique stores. Across the street is Brick Alley. They do a lot of toys and retro stuff. But where we're headed today is the Old Central Antique Mall. First a hotel, then a pharmacy, now an antique mall. This has been here for a long time. My mother used to take me when I would come back from college with all these windows. It might be the window shoppingest antique mall that I've ever seen. If you're into glass, well, you don't even have to go into the store to see it all. It's a nice piece of Bostoria heirloom. Nice display of Fire King jadeite and some Fiesta. A bunch of Viking and Moon and Stars and Empoli here. Cute Swedish bust. A couple of Shelley cups and saucers in the middle there. And we're seeing the backs of some Fenton and a whole lot of other things that make me want to get in there and shop. Well, let's go in and see what they have. I haven't been in this one in a long time. Look at the beautiful stained glass on this player piano, the Empress Coin piano with mandolin and orchestra bells. Made about 1920. Someone else has figured out that cologne and perfume are definitely things to buy. The Versace's never been opened, $49. I like the Mariella Barone bottle. Taboo is a famous scent, of course, for $25. And then we have the check glass doctor, and this is the one delivering the baby. Much cuter than some of them. 1906 leather postcard from right here in Port Orchard. This is $59. The glasses are plain, but I really like the carrier. I'd never seen this with the daisies on it from about 1970. Tea room is one of my favorite Art Deco patterns. Strong Art Deco design. This one's nice because it has the caddy. They want $75 for the three-piece set, though. Booth is half off. Let's take a look. We've got the Jeanette Hellenic ice bucket, which would be $17. That's a pretty good price. These are all Wade figurines. $62.50 on the man and the woman. The larger nursery rhyme pieces seem to be in the $12.50 range each, which is a pretty good deal. I like the man in the boat there. And then these Wade women, about $15 each, but that's honestly all I can get for those. $20 on the Wade turtle crawling in the ashtray. $30 on the Goebel owl mug. That's a fun piece. They have some other Goebel that are not the Hummels, including this dealer plaque for the wildlife collection. $2.95 is not a bad price for the Fenton custard glass lamp with the big puffy flowers, because that one glows like crazy. If you put black light bulbs in there, that would be really fun. This casserole is really fun. This is Red Wing. Around the same time that Chicken in the Sea was doing the tuna casseroles. This is a 1940 era mark. $48 on that. Some fun colors in dance Coben style. I don't really see the green much at all. I see the blue a little more often. This is also Red Wing, this dinnerware pattern from about 1960 called Two-Step, a good modernist design. I definitely like the J.P. Coates cotton dispenser here. It has a big surface so that you could write on it or measure things. And it also has all the drawers and all the knobs. $3.95 is a pretty decent price for that. A couple of Bauer al fresco pieces. Here's this huge bowl here, $78. I like the oval planter. Here's a little compare and contrast. So we have a number 5 Red Wing crock. Then we have Western stoneware out of Illinois with the maple leaf. And then we have Western pottery with the oval. That's out of Denver. So there was more than one Western in crockery. Hudson Bay is gone now. This is an Orfelt blanket. This was a knockoff of Hudson Bay, or Alaskan, as they call it, pure wool, $125. It definitely has the cool look with the stripes. Big Fenton floor lamp here with the hobnails. And the nice cranberry, they are asking $4.95 for that. That should be from about 1970. I always like mirrors set up as diamonds. I just think it's a neat way to have a different shape on your wall. And this one from about 1900 is priced at $260. Well, through this I see a really blue 1970s lamp, 30% off everything in here. These are nice because they have the original paper on it. This was never used. That's why they're asking $95, because it has everything and it's mint. These came from Planet Warehouse. Fine, they have $49 a piece on them. They can sell that high. The reason they don't sell for more is because these were put out by a company in 1958, and then they went bankrupt before they could actually fill these. So a warehouse full of these was found back east, where they were made originally. So they're really cool space-age bottles, but there's a lot of them because they were never used. Astoria Trojan in the yellow. I've always liked that pattern. It's very strong and distinct. And so is the color. This is definitely something we see in Port Orchard and the Bremerton area because so many people were stationed in Japan in the 1960s and they were still making this kind of lacquerware and painting it then. And people would bring these home. This one is in remarkably good condition. A lot of times the lacquer chips away or you lose paint. So this one is super clean and they're asking $75 before the 30% discount. Cork lamps, very popular at the time, and a lot of them suffered this fate. They got chipped or bumped and lost their original shape, or people used them as push pin holders. They're still cute though, $275 for the pair. I like this big shell here. One of the California pottery companies. In fact, this one is Poppy Trail, which is Metlocks. Sometimes they just use the Poppy Trail brand. This is a pun plate here. This was commissioned in Lansing, Michigan by Pig and Whistle Gifts in East Lansing because Oldsmobiles were made in Lansing. That's the 1902 Curve Dash Oldsmobile. There was a song called In My Merry Oldsmobile. And this shows a bunch of different models up to about the 1930s. Vernon made a great many souvenir plates. A friend of mine's mother in Bremerton nearby here, when we were growing up, had a wall full of them. That's Sonoma. There's Maine. Underneath California. Every state and lots of attractions had these made for them. Now here's a fun Pyrex wall. All the color, I think that's why people really like it. Snowflake is one of my favorite patterns. And they have the snowflakes that are this style. And then they have the snowflake garlands. Half off in this booth puts the celluloid face Christmas pixies at $9 each. The yellow vase is Shawnee from the last 6 years of their production, 1955 to 61. Department 56 did the Uncle Sam teapot. The old galvanometer is an interesting device here. This looks like something from the early 20th century. And it will definitely point the way, no matter how you turn it. I, of course, am a fan of the conch shell being used in grottos like this. And the plastic flamingo just sets it off perfectly, don't you think? $55. Nice side-by-side oak piece from 1900. American made for $435. And a very fun water lily cold teapot set with the cream and sugar for $125. Now there's an older croquet set for you. Has some of the balls not in great shape, unfortunately. Cool look though. $69 on the old Skoll dispenser from a store. This is before the Surgeon General warning, so probably from about 1960. $28 on the recipe cocktail shaker next to it. There's a big totem pole right outside this store. This little one's only $10. It's Japanese from the 50s. Not a Native American made piece, but has a fun look. Such cheap prices on Franciscan apple now. Only $10 for the tripart server. That used to sell for $50. They're only asking $10 for the divided vegetable. $9 on the gravy boat. And this crescent side salad, $4. Gotta think at this price, this is probably buyable. So many people have this pattern, and these are serving pieces, which is something that somebody who already has the pattern can use. We are right across from Bremerton, the Navy town, and so we're going to see things like this, the captain's dinnerware service. The captain's dining room got the service with the flag rather than the plain one that says USN. Saucer is $25. There's a little history on it there. And then the ones with the knot were in the junior grade officer's room. And then the anchor were the basic ones. Here are the different marks so that you can tell. If you see something with a full flag, those were for the admirals, and those are worth money. David Lemon is pretty well known for bronze sculpture. He was out of Montana. This is a small piece, but it's from 1995. They have it priced at $125. The realism is what attracts a lot of people to his work. Another Montana artist, this was Sidney Nesbitt. This one is from 1937. It is not in perfect condition, but it's an interesting and really well-sculpted piece in ceramic. Two Guns Blackfeet died 34, and this was done 3 years after. They're only asking $40 because of the damage. Nesbitt is definitely a known creator of these sorts of sculptures. This is a nice Russian lacquer box because it has color rather than the black background that we usually see. Behind it we see an English postal scale with the little weights so that you could tell how heavy your letter was. Priced at $40. Glasses or jewelry for the table, I like that. Here's some more of the Navy wardroom china with the anchors. We see this more frequently, of course. The nice pie safe. We don't see a ton of primitives in this area, but there were a lot of people living out on farms in this county 100 years ago, so you see some. This is priced at $485. I think this is a very handsome little circa 1910 Art Nouveau style oak cabinet here with the display and the nice mirror backsplash. Priced at $325. Now this is fun the way that they made this into a mirror. All this piping and stuff. It even seems like you should be able to turn on the sink with that. Hello everyone. Nice Toledo scale in the gold here, priced at $120. That's from the 1920s. Around 1920, it was very popular to pose women as natives in headdresses. This is Helen Fachode, not a Native American, but a very attractive woman who was one of the right dancers. And she posed for this around 1917. It's called Daughter of the Setting Sun. The colors are just great. They want $60 for it. One thing I recommend if you're a dealer, if this stays here long enough, that tag is going to leave a dark spot while everything else fades just a little from exposure to sun. I'm going to do them the favor of sticking it to the frame. Early 60s turquoise and light blue. Very popular colors. You have the Sunbeam Camo printer, the Bauer Swirled Planter, and the Erica phone in this great color. I had one in pink. This one, of course, says Dayton, Ohio, because the Erica Phone Company of Sweden licensed the Ohio company to make these. And it's priced at $68, which is not bad for an interesting color. Dual posts somehow get saved even when they tear old houses with staircases down, and it's a great thing because they're typically carved really nicely, and they can do services, all sorts of things. Plus, they're just neat to look at. This one is $198. These are Martha Stewart jadeite glass. She loved it so much that she publicized the Fire King in her book. A whole bunch of new people started collecting it, and then they said, ooh, what if we made our own? Well, of course, they didn't make their own. They had it made overseas. It will say MBM on the back. It's very thick, and yet you can still see through it. It's more of a clam broth. They're okay, but they're really kind of heavy and clunky compared to the stuff from the 50s and earlier. This little English curio cabinet here from the 1930s, priced at $285. Kind of a typical price we see on these. I always enjoy the DeForest of California piggy cookie jars. This one's $36. Go ahead, make a pig of yourself. I think they figured that was more effective than putting bells on it. You just scare people out of wanting the cookies. It wouldn't work on me. This is cool. They have some old floats and buoys. You can tell by the shape of these that they're West Coast. These oblongs are not done on the East Coast. A driftwood sign. Imperial Schooner Restaurant. $375 on that. Even the rubber Snow White and Seven Dwarfs sets made in Hong Kong in the 70s are collectible now, $100 for that complete set. They often are very dirty or worn, so that one's really clean. And the next to it is Yadro. Yes, believe it or not, this is Yadro. They did what they called the Gresh finish, which was different than their usual, and it was multicolored. This is the Frosty Outing, where you have the Inuit with the baby on the back, priced at $300. Nice selection of briar horses here. The Alabaster we don't see as much, because those got marked up more when kids were playing with them. They have a bunch of the little stable mates for just $5 each. I like these Fostoria brocade lines. This one has the flowers, $29 is a pretty good price for that ice bucket, actually. This is a different kind of head vase. They did a lot that were little children at a certain point in the late 60s and early 70s. Narco did these. They're asking $24 each on those. Hello, Grandma. Hello, Grandpa. Here's a few other varieties over here. They've got a lot of really fun battery-operated pieces. The clown that makes music, the bubble-blowing musician, say that 3 times fast. It's got the box, too, which is nice. The busy housekeeper, who is the bear with the vacuum cleaner. These are all priced in the $50 to $75 range. Then you have the crap shooter and the bartender by Cragston. And here the maraca playing turnover pup. He could actually do a backflip. And the sleepy bear. The big purple brooch is La Rocca. This was the only costume jewelry maker based in Seattle. They were here in the 50s, 60s, and 70s primarily. And La Rocca is definitely collectible here. Above it, we have a cameo, and then next to that, the golden clear rhinestone. That is Florenta, and that one's a trembler, meaning those pieces actually shake. And tremblers are pretty collectible. $30 seems very inexpensive on that. This booth is half off, and they have a very unusual cased glass with the lilac and turquoise. This is a Fenton piece from the 1950s. That color combination did not last long. $112.50 at half off. This is Vasa Marina in the basket, now $75. $300 on the punch bowl with the pedestal. And there's a big collection of the regular Russian lacquered boxes with the black backgrounds. I see their version of Santa Claus. These are really beautifully done. Peanut butter tins are pretty collectible. This one's $95. I haven't seen the teeny weeny version of Monarch before. And then these little tiny canes, these are writing crops from England. Sultana peanut butter came from the A&P stores. Some pretty celluloid boxes in this base. I like the cherubs on this one. Unfortunately, it's peeling just a little. But it has all of its interior. The brushes, the nail file, the cologne bottle. Everything that's supposed to come with it is there. So that's neat. This one is $42.
What people like.
This would have been for collars or anything else that would have fit in that size. And then this one was for your gloves. They have a fabric side here. There's the top. That's very pretty. $34 is a good price on that. And yes, they have mid-century stuff, not just kitchenware, but the Viking purple vase in the middle there, and the Empoli compote, a rainbow bottle, which has its stopper laying behind it, and a tiny Viking amber glass jar. In this space, we have a Weller Baldwin apple vase for $44, which is a good deal, and a Nelson McCoy hanging basket with the original chain. Chains are usually missing. What Sirocco eventually turned into, once they started doing in plastic, they were purchased by Dart. They didn't do the compressed wood anymore. And the plastic pieces, towards the end of production, they started painting. This one's priced at $85. Sarah's another one of these CERA mid-century 22-karat gold painted glasses that are fun, that people like now. He's obviously for wine with the grapes on it. And they are asking $24 for the set, which is really not bad for a set of 6. It's only $4 each. It's tempting. We have a bunch of the later Disney dwarves. And a lot of pop culture stuff. And a lot of newer stuff. They do have these Luminart glasses. We usually see these in ruby. They did do them in teal. They're asking $20 for the set of 4 cordials and $40 for the set of 8 footed water glasses. The champagnes are in interesting shape. They are asking $40 for a set of 6, but then of course it's half off of those prices. I always thought these were interesting. They're rosemead. They look like a pitcher, but then they have a way to arrange flowers in them, so they were really meant to be a vase. It has the ink stamp on it, $42. Something different by Salviati with Bacchus on it. I have not run into these before. The buckle is really cool, and it's $60. I like this buckle too.
They got another one over here.
Okay, let's go upstairs. I have found some good things upstairs in the past.
Okay, I really like these gravel, the fiberglass turned into gravel and done as pictures. I haven't seen the geisha and the samurai before. Not terribly expensive, $36. The texture is just really fun on these. And the color is good. They've been here 40 years. Wow, that's impressive. Thumper, yes. This was right out of the Snow White and done by American Pottery in 1938-9. Very cute. We see him fairly often. He was so popular at the time. A bunch of puppets or marionettes, if they're French. I need to figure out how to hook my Howdy Doody puppets up to a rod like this so I can display them. This is giving me ideas. I like the Pelham puppets. I'm going to be talking more about them in an upcoming member video. The clowns, oh, these are really great. I know they're spooky and scary to some people, but that's precisely why they're good. F&B Dolls made the black doll, which is really cute, but the name is terribly stereotyped, from the 1930s. Scarce now, $150. The Cocktail Maidens, yes, this is very popular in the mid-60s. It's quite bawdy, and yes, these are lushes for the mixing swingers who needed a bar guide. They're almost always a little tattered like this, but the prices are good on these at $10 and $12, especially the calendar. There are collectors because they're just so silly in retrospect. During the war and prior to that in some states during the Depression, you would get tokens to pay your sales tax. Not only are these made in Hawaii, but they are matching his and hers. This is pretty cool. JCPenney's of all places, but I love that it's one really big graphic, and this looks like it's something from the late 70s, looking at the colors. They're really in amazing condition, and the price is not bad. I'm looking at everything in this booth, and it is truly vintage. It's so nice to see a vintage booth that really is vintage clothing and not just a bunch of resale stuff that's fairly contemporary. This is a neat outfit. Very 1971, I would say. And we've got leopard print. The striped piece over here looks like a nice older piece. And it's only $28. I'd say the prices are pretty good from what I'm seeing of this to find stuff that's real. Wow, there's a very 70s polyester outfit. And that one, $29. Yeah, that would look good on somebody. It's very Eric Foreman. Let's see what else they have here. Oh yeah, this tweedy piece. This looks like something right out of the 80s. Absolutely. So 40 years ago now. It's cute. Colors are coming back in style right now. In fact, those are the Christmas colors this year, oddly enough. And there's some psychedelic stuff from the 70s. Wow, look at how bright that is. That's a lot of fun. And very long. They say hemlines go down in down economy. At least traditionally they did. Look at the great 70s hooked rugs on the wall, too. I sold the one on the left, and yeah, they're around $45 roughly, and that is about what I got for mine. Also very 70s are these brass pieces by DeMott, and then the John Perry is from around 1980. The DeMotts are signed. I have the post box actually at Lander Street Vintage right now, also by DeMott. They're not terribly expensive, not like a Jarret piece, but they are a signed piece, and there's our John Perry also signed. Ah yes, growing up near here, with everyone being in the Navy, you saw a lot of schmaltzy stuff like this from about 1980 in people's rumpus rooms. I'm selling a really neat Mexican costume on eBay right now, but wow, look at that fantastic Guatemalan piece with the way the yarn is done. It's so decorative and so bright and so fun, and reminds me of Huichol art, which is becoming a lost art. So that's really cool, and the price is good. And then there's a wonderful mola from the Puna Indians in Panama. I like this one with the animals down there. I'm not sure what those are, jackalopes? Here is something really great to see in an antique and vintage store. Actual vintage fabric. If you're repairing an old piece of clothing, or repairing fabric art, or repairing an old quilt, or who knows what, it's wonderful to see actual vintage fabric in a place. And the prices are pretty good. I mean, they're pretty long bolts, and they're not a ton more than you would pay for something new that's retro, but isn't really right. If you look at the old home decorating books, you get the idea. Growing up in the 70s here, we saw a lot of this kind of stuff in old farmsteads. And then there was the exotic feather headband. Now that's something completely different. $10. All right, look for the thing that doesn't belong. I will take that for that price. Here we have something really cool I've never seen before, but it makes perfect sense. It's to measure the bolt of fabric in a fabric store, and we can tell from the weight, the type, style, and the chrome that this is from about 1950. It's really cool, and I think that's interesting for that price. I think I'll get this. They didn't have video games to keep kids occupied on rainy days in Washington, so here's Pitch'em, a horseshoe game that you would have played indoors, and that would run off a little bit of steam while we waited for the sun to come out again. Franciscan ware is famous for Desert Rose, and I just did a big video about them, and one thing I mentioned but didn't show was that they made fine china for a while. This is the Arden pattern, and this is a pattern I haven't seen much before, but I like it. It's very modernist. A lot of these were done in the mid-50s. The shapes were a little more modern, and what a great price. One fun thing about traveling the U.S. looking for antiques and vintages, you learn about stuff from different regions, and being in the Midwest part of the time now, well, I see this Whitehall from Illinois. It was a town full of crockery and other potteries, and this was the big one. You see the Illinois state logo, and those are from the 1920s approximately. Nice piece. We lived in the country when I was a kid, and the neighbors had one of these, and it dated back to the 50s or early 60s. It is a skeet shooting outfit. I'm sure it still works, and it's $250. Cool embossing, too. In the 70s, Olympia Beer would have you set a six-pack on this, and they were at the end caps in the stores and also above the taverns if they had a package store in this part of the country. Olympia was very popular in its time. I'm always so happy when I see a Bakelite radio in good condition, but this is maybe even more interesting. It's the Penny's Light Touch. And wow, these are really deep keys, but that works really well, actually. And I see where you don't have to push it very hard. This would be from the 1970s, probably for kids to learn on, or for something really super portable. It's very lightweight. Penny's was the big store in Bremerton, and so because of that, well, a lot of this stuff around here from this vintage came from there, and I believe I remember this piece as a kid. There were all these printed fabric pieces there, and at the Pier 1 Imports that opened, that was a big deal when it came here. This is a really cool piece. This is Howard Miller, and it's a world time clock from about 1980, and all of the little bars shift so you could see what time it was all over the world. Howard Miller, unfortunately, they are closing. They have just announced, and they are going to be gone after many years in Michigan. It's a real loss, but their clocks are cool, and a lot of them have novelty like this one. So a good investment, perhaps, at $195. When I was a kid, my dad helped me build a crystal radio out of a Radio Shack kit. This is a generation earlier. This is from the late 50s or early 60s, and it's priced about right for what it is. They're interesting to people. This setup is really cool. If you like Hollywood Regency and 1970s style, well, here you go. And hello, everybody. And look at her on the couch. And that couch, boy, that looks like something my grandmother had. That is just really funny and fun and looks great. And the tulip lamp from the early 80s is right at home. And these are expensive now. And here are some smaller scraps that might be good for assembling baby clothes or little pillows, or again for repairs, and these are vintage as well. It's nice to see they have a couple of dealers here that specialize in sewing. I really like the head vases with the Asian motif. The emperor and his wife are quite regal looking and really well painted. This is early 60s Japanese. Behind on the left they have a bohemian. It looks bohemian to me because the flowers are pretty flat. And it's a decanter, and the stems are definitely 1960s, not Victorian. But they did mark this one correctly, and actually their pricing is about right on both of them. Pretty ruby colors. Would be nice on a Christmas table this year. My mom would always complain about getting roped into going to Tupperware parties and then having to buy something because they were home parties. But wow, someone is a good salesperson, because look how much there is here. There were a lot of people selling this when I was a kid around here, and the colors really are fun. I mean, it's good for dry storage of certain things. Some of it, the chemicals, you might not want now. Well, there's one more little half light up, so more to see up here, and I usually do well in this end. Two Miss Revlon dolls, the one in the hat and the bride. The one in the hat is very cute and has her accessories. She's in great shape. She's fairly priced. They are collectible, more so if you have the box, of course. But Barbie replaced her, and so girls the next year in 1959 suddenly wanted smaller dolls that were easier to handle for them. And so Miss Revlon kind of went by the by. This is another F&B. And you folks who sew have definitely taught me that there is an active market for patterns of this era. They seem like they have the right time frames. They have 50s and 60s and 70s, and they seem like things that people are willing to buy and make again. And they have a big variety, teens and children's and seasonals and even a little bit of men's. I like the deep colors in this velvet painting. These deep rust colors were popular in the late 70s. It was a way to tone down orange but still keep it in your decor. Cool, but in my house I have one like this because I'm a big fan of the 50s colors and the Turners are really fun. This is a World War I doughboy picture, and it is in a convex frame. And if you have trouble remembering convex from concave, just remember a cave goes in, this bubbles out, so it's the opposite, and that's convex. Nice frame, good price, especially for being a military piece. And you see right there where the glass bows out. Well, a lot of kids of my generation chewed on and broke and colored on these, so this one's in really remarkable shape. It's one of those portable toy chests from the 1960s, priced at $59. It's nice when they have information about the people. This couple have been together and are remaining together in eternity. This came out of a 1980s vintage restaurant when chalkboards and having your logo at the top was kind of a style at the entrance of places. Just as soon as we're done here, we're going to go down the block and see Josephine's on the left-hand side. This handmade item looks like a churn, or perhaps a rock tumbler, but it in fact is a place to put raffle tickets. And then they could spin it around and somebody could reach in after you unlocked it, and that way you knew it was going to be a fair draw. I'm sure this was used in the 60s by some philanthropic organization here. And then we've got a Martha Washington cabinet here, and this one's really clean. Oh, interestingly, this one you have to flip the top in order to get the sides open. I see. Well, we'll leave their display be, but it's priced about right. They're really quite collectible now. Usually this opens up here. This space looks like it's got some interesting big stuff and proppy stuff. Old fans are great as long as you don't have a kid or a cat. Let's see, over here we've got a big marine light of some sort. That's an interesting looking piece. And this is a shaved ice machine. They would use these in places like Hawaii and warm weather places, and I suppose anywhere in the summertime. Most of them were made in Japan, interestingly enough. Next to it is an old hay trolley. I don't know why I'm fascinated with those. I just have this idea they could be repurposed somehow. More of the buoys that are the West Coast style, as you see. This is cool, a rudder off of a wooden boat, and I like that it has the lever, and it's just a great look. It'd be a fun thing to put on a wall. Okay, I've done well in this room before. There's a lot of boots, there's a lot of clothing, there's a lot of just sort of things that seem piled, but, well, take a look at this. Wow, yeah, here we go. This is nice. It's shell, it's a parts cabinet. It'd be nice if the drawers pulled out, but at least they swing down. They've got 27 on it. I'm expecting it'll sell for 75 or more. Really a good deal on the Coleman camp stove too, $20, but it looks really clean. It's an older one, and yeah, these are definitely something to buy. Now, I do pretty well with camel seats. People like to use them as footrests, and they're cool looking, and they're from the 60s primarily. This one seems to be priced about where they usually are, in the $50 range. Wow, shoot, another good croquet set, really cheap, but it's missing one of the mallets, and with the rubber tips, those are going to be hard to replace. It'd be tempting to buy it for parts. It's too bad the parts that are missing on the one downstairs are not enough like this one, because otherwise we could merge them and have a great set. Aw, look how cute this guy is. I'm really happy because I had 2 rocking horses in Kentucky, and my friend who was helping with my space got one of them and gave it to her grandchild, so I was really pleased with that.
Wow, these trucks look pretty good and they're priced really cheaply, but we'll have to see how complete they are. Tonka up here, one of the wheels is wrong. It's a little too as is for being Tonka of that age. Oh, this one's missing the front grille. That happens a lot on that particular style from about 1940. This is a cool looking crane, but it looks like it doesn't have its crank. Oh, a missing grill on that one. So yeah, I mean, still worth it for parts, but I'm not going to mess with it. It's big and cumbersome, so oh well. There's a pretty Staffordshire pottery from England. And oh yes, the Sadler mark. They've usually made teapots, but these little forms are very similar to teapots. I almost got Zeno one of these at an estate sale. It was immaculate. I should have. It was really cheap, and they're really good. It's a filter queen from the 50s. This is an interesting piece of naval equipment as well, and it looks like something that was sort of put together by hand. It's the squadrons, the power squadrons, and it's got a compass and some sort of a directional. I don't completely recognize this piece, and it looks handmade because this is not a drawer. I think that's just to put the other piece in and carry it.
Old Stuff publication is still going. We advertised in this back when I was running the antique mall chain, and it shows places all over the Northwest that you can shop. Information about shows, as well as articles about things of interest. So they have this available here at the antique mall, and I'm going to pick it up and hang on to it. Port Orchard still has an electric foot ferry that goes over to Bremerton for people working in the shipyard, and a neat totem pole to let you know what part of the country this is. Our next stop is Gathered by Josephine's, and Josephine's itself, because they have antique furniture and vintage.
Nice Roseville here. A lot of people don't realize they made the teapots in the Magnolia as well as bookends. I've always been fond of the bookends. They used to sell for a big premium, and now they're actually a little less expensive than some of their other pieces. The Frisia cookie jar is priced at $140. This is clearly an old barn find, and they didn't really have to rough this up at all. And this is what I like to see, is where you find old painted furniture that really is old. It's more of a furniture, furnishings, and interior store, so you will see things set up like they would be in a home, which is nice for ideas for the way you display. There's a neat old clock in this old farm cabinet. The farm cabinet is $9.75. And look at this great old boat in the corner. The display, a lot of people put shelves in those now. This old industrial cart is another example. Now the top is new, and they've obviously put a little bit of blue paint on it. Neat old scale there. This is from about the 1920s. Nice old accordion here for $175. That's actually not a bad price. Accordions have really gone up in price in the past couple of years. Seltzer bottles actually are pretty good sellers. They've got 80 on this one with the good graphics, and the paint's in good shape. A lot of these are pretty beaten up because they'd use them over and over. I keep selling these rules, and I've never seen anybody open it up and turn it into a star before. Maybe that's what's happening with them all, because they are good sellers for me. We see this one fairly often. It's neat because it's got the deck of cards on the top, and they're asking $85 on that. The paint's in relatively good condition. This has been restored, but that's a cool one. This was one that you wrote on top. This is from the 1930s. That's why it has a steering wheel here. A little toddler could have pushed that around and sat on it. They're asking $650. That is actually not a bad deal on a Ford Model T. Basic car that had about 45 horsepower, changed everything. Using a bunch of other industrial parts. Behind there is an old glass fishing float. These are pretty popular to collect and hang now too. Some more beer advertising, more toys. Great graphic with the ship from the old Great White Fleet, which was berthed in Bremerton for a period of time when it sailed around the world in 1908 to 9. Got a bunch of new old stock postcards here. These are really fun. You can amaze your friends by sending them. That's Beacon Hill in Massachusetts. Cherokee Mother. They've got a whole bunch here, and they're only $2 a piece, which is about what you'd pay for a new postcard, so how fun. One other antique store that looks fun, but we can only window shop because for some reason they're closed on this Saturday, is this one called Buddy's Good Eye. And I see cool things through the windows.
I see an interesting goble piece that has a glaze that looks more like Blue Mountain pottery. A whole collection of Madonnas. Well, if you're having fun exploring new places with me, please click the thumbs up button to let YouTube know you like it. And please subscribe and click the bell to be notified of future videos. That way you can go with us on all our adventures everywhere. The antique mall closed for the day, but we have one place that's still open. This is a vendor variety mall. It used to be in another location. They are having their grand opening in their new location, and I'm curious to see if they still have antiques and vintage. This is a vendor mall, and we don't have a lot of these in Washington. I think this piece was made by Rossi in Canada. They have 49 on it. Nice cranberry piece. This is Victorian here. I like the dark blue. $27 with the 3 glasses. Very inexpensive. $59.99 on the two-tone Murano. There's a large piece of blue sky that I haven't seen before. It's a crush. $39.99. Few of the vendors are having sales for the grand opening. Now there's going to be a mix of new things and other things, but there are some cool ethnographic masks and a rattle. And then this really nice pair. They're asking $129, but these candlesticks are 1920s Royal Doulton. They're asking $2,000, but these rolling pin floats, especially the big ones, are really unusual and hard to find. I've seen big prices on them like this before. Japanese, early 1900s, different than the round ones, obviously. The bowls here are Watteau, one of the more popular patterns that tends to flow in flow blue style from the late Victorian period. And the Steiff Mungo is especially funky with all of his colors. Rhinoceros is $38. These pieces are really fun. This is whole pottery from the 50s. You almost never see this Tropicana design. It's the same blanks they did Continental and other pieces on, but these really fun Jamaican dancers. And this one was the guy swimming after the fish. They have prices that are up there because this stuff is hard to find. They're asking about $95 each on these. Gandhi is one of the harder Yadro figures to find. Very realistic representation. Over $500 for him. Royal Doulton Penguin is $155 and the Bulldog is $55. And then here's a bunch of the whole ebb tide. Really like the vase for $85. But the teapot set especially, I think it's just so much fun with the little seahorse finial. They're asking $110 for the 3 pieces. Only $20 for the candlestick holders though. And then this is a cool piece from the 1920s with the Arabian figures. Royal Desert Scenes, that's a Royal Doulton line that we don't see too often. Big chamber stick is only $22.95. The Bohemian Policeman is a fun nodder. Now, of course, we call them bobbleheads, $19. Jack Woodson did this Sail America line for Lenox around 1990. It has design inside as well. They're asking $50. I'm a big fan of these Bezic with the palm tree. They're asking $42.95. That's not bad for the basket. And a little K-Finch pig with his curly-do eyelashes. That's the tell. You can see that same element in the owl. Loads of Hummels and other figurines in here. Book section here. They have a book I really like, Doc Maynard. He founded Cleveland, divorced after a terrible marriage, and his wife said, "Leave me everything and get out of here," so he went west and helped found Seattle. Audubon watercolors. This would do well in Kentucky. They're asking $100, which is probably a realistic price. And then Edward Gorey. Edward Gorey was a very peculiar and interesting cartoonist, and I've always really enjoyed him. This whole book starts out with a loner named Edmund Grabble, known as the Recluse of Lower Spigot, who thinks he's celebrating Christmas alone. By the end, he's throwing a party with a large bug. How you got there? Well, that was all through the mind of Edward Gorey. I have lots of Hot Wheels and die-cast. These are after the era that I do, but collectible to some people for sure. Dinosaurs Are Us. Various pots by Betty May Selby and other Southwest potters. Casino Center, downtown Las Vegas. That's a good lighter that you don't see very often, but they have it priced accordingly. This is not as big as the old store, but it seems like they have a pretty good selection. One decorated an old Chinese sewing basket. Here's an older looking piece of cloisonne. Someone scratched the interior a lot though. $7.50 each is a good price on the Royal Worcester Evesham Vale codlers. Fenton clowns with a little bit of frit, $30 each. This is fun, Anchor Hawking Elegance, and they are elegant from the 60s with the original box for $80. That lamp looks like something out of every house I went into when I was a child in this area. The marbling is odd, but I love these tables. Just so much fun. Out of the late 50s, early 60s, let's see what they have on here. $347, two-tiered bimorphic. Oh, and they have end tables up front as well. That would be fun to build a room around. The bale is older than the glasses, but these are Kentucky Derby glasses. $69 is getting back to where they're more collectible in and of themselves. $57 for the set. Local honey. This is the time of year where my allergies kick up. I probably need some of this. Silver certificates and some basic coins. 1940s era $50. Things we see pretty commonly, but it's nice they have this selection. Some Navajo jewelry and some others that look like it. $50 for the Capri Blue Hazel Atlas berry set from the early 60s. This interesting strange bird is whales from Japan, and it's a 1950s piece sold in Havre, Montana as a souvenir. Oh yes, they've got Monster High and wrestlers and all sorts of more recent vintage collectible toys. Barbie, she said yes. She'll be very disappointed on her wedding night. Only $95 on this set of 6 1920s dining chairs, including 2 captain's chairs. They could be reupholstered to match. It's actually a very inexpensive price. These are fun. The Newport pattern, I always like this, also known as hairpin, another Hazel Atlas pattern. This is from the 1930s. They're asking $10 for the cups and saucers and $49 for a set of 8 lunch plates. This is kind of a cute vase, and this is Boys Town. Father Flanagan started Boys Town in Nebraska for wayward boys, and making ceramics was one of the things they did there. There are people who collect it because of that, and this is $25. Ah yes, tawdry 1970s humor. Originally, we see these big plastic ones by the Berries. It's hard to read, but that's 1970 Russ and Wallace Berry. They're asking $10 for this. And then this one is going to say Paula, which was a competitor, more of a compressed material, 1972. Perfect for your summer road trip as long as you're staying where you go. I wish I knew the price on this because they're having a sale in this booth. $15 on sale. And next to it, a classic Benjomatic. Silent Running. This one's actually signed by Bruce Dern. This is a re-release because the first number is 72, which is 1972. It was originally from 1968. And they're asking $20. Whenever you see something that looks older than it seems, and it says sarsaparilla, you know these were done in the 80s to look like things from the 50s. They did a lot of flamingos too. Here's one of these interesting cold glazed Bulgarian pieces. Uveche clay is what it's called, and it is now down to $25. That's pretty good for the big casserole. Candlewick glass. The stems are always kind of elegant looking. I like the bell shape on the big water glasses. These would have been for tall cocktails. They have some of the flat serving pieces too. I like the early Tupperware in these castels. And it's just such happy colors, especially the beverage set with the lids, $37. A Treasure Craft fish tray. I don't see these much anymore, and they only want $16, but it has a chip on the lip, and that is the big problem with them. they did tend to chip on the points. Oh yes, the Hula Dancers Tropical Drink Bowl. These were sold by Otagiri to companies in Hawaii, but also to Harvey's Lake Tahoe Casino. $17 on that. Fishing stuff, but this all looks newer. Pixie dish here. This looks like Gilmer with the painted face. Does not have a mark. And then look at this great owl canister hiding in the corner here. $40 on that. This looks like something from the 70s. I'm just curious to see if it has any mark. It doesn't, but I'm pretty sure it was Japanese made because it's a little thinner than the American ceramics of the same era. Oh, a color with kitty book. I've never seen this one. I can't imagine too many of them survived because they had wheels to show you colors, and they had the book, and lots of things to break or have fall apart. That's very cute. $18. Wow, look at the upholstery on this. Love that gold. That is just awesome. Looks like something from about 1960. Well, we came, we saw, we bought a few things. Port Orchard has antiques and vintage, and it's a place that I will come back to shop some more.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.